Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to my new YouTube channel. I'm excited about this. This is our first episode. Hi, I'm Kenny Stokes, owner of the award-winning home improvement company, Kimco Home Improvement. And the reason that I've started this channel is that I want to be able to share with you tricks that I have learned over the years when it comes to vinyl siding, when it comes to windows, vinyl windows, roofing, both metal, shingles, tools that we use. One thing that we've done throughout our time being in business here is to try to use products in an innovative way to make them look better, not make the house not look like it has vinyl siding on it, but it has real siding on it. So we found ways to hide trim nails. We found ways spring form the fit of the aluminum products that we break to put on the trim work. We found ways to hide the trim nails in inconspicuous places. We found ways to hide the J-channel because that's a dead giveaway. One thing, siding builds the house out and it makes the windows look recessed, so that's a dead giveaway that is not real material. So we found ways to do this. Another problem that we'll talk about in our upcoming shows is going to be flashing the siding and putting measures in place to protect the house. We go back to many houses where the walls underneath the siding have deteriorated, floors have been rotted out because of improper insulation of siding. So we're going to address many of these things along with the tools that we use, things that will make your jobs look better, will speed the process up, help you to make more money, and give the customer a better job. So come with me, and we're going to talk about one of the jobs that we're working on here, a complete remodel of windows and siding on a modular home. So one of the first things I want everyone to know is that we do not have any sponsors, since this is a new YouTube channel, and any products or tools that you hear me talk about or any of our workers talk about is going to be because we've used them and been using them for years, and they're tried and they're true. And one of these is the crane board siding that we're putting on. We're taking the old flimsy vinyl siding off of this house that's been here for 20, 25 years, and we're installing a new insulated back siding. This makes this product very stiff. It allows it to bridge over imperfections in the walls to give you a much straighter look. When it goes up the wall, it can't be stretched. Sometimes one installer will stretch this siding up and the other one on the other end of the siding will not, and the siding will end up getting crooked on the house. This cannot happen with this product because of the firm insulation that's on the back of it. Another thing that we'll talk about is a level. Sometimes a level can be your best friend on the job, and sometimes a level can be your worst enemy, and I'll show you why. So before I start talking about the level and why sometimes it can be your worst enemy, just want to mention that this is not finished yet. The channel that you see around here is not a finished product. This is just the preliminary J channel that goes on to flash the window. We're later going to have a 1x4 frame that's going to go over top of the siding and over part of this with a decorative panel underneath. By this going over the siding, it now builds the window out. It would be applied much like shutters would be applied afterwards. So now the windows look out and the siding looks back in as it should on a real architecturally designed home. Now for the level. As you notice, everything is straight with the brickwork on this house. When you go up to the top, you'll notice that the siding is straight with the boxing up above. But if someone tried to put their starter piece on, that's the part at the bottom that your siding fits, either hooks on, or we chose to use our own made J-channel out of aluminum, because aluminum, being a very stiff product, allows that aluminum to stay straight down the bottom of the house and gives it a very nice, crisp appearance. But if you wanted to start that first piece and you went to the house and you held the level up to this house and decided to run your siding with this, you'll notice that this is not perfectly level. The bubble is actually a little closer to the left side than it is the right. So if you had run this level, by the time you got from one end of the house to the other, the siding would have been 1 inch or 2 inches out of line with the brickwork and 1 inch to 2 inches out of line with the boxing or the overhang of the house. So this is one of those times, because houses settle, they may no longer be plumb and level. Sometimes you just have to throw this away. So on all our houses, before we start the first piece of siding and choose our starter point on the house, we go to every corner on the house, we level in from the boxing, and that's where it's your friend. You want your soffit to be level or slightly up at the back. That's the pieces that go up underneath the overhang. The vented pieces, like you see, have been done already down at the other end of the house in the overhang there. You never want those to be down, because any water that rolls off that fascia could follow that soffit and run back to the house and down the wall and get behind the siding there at the top. So it's very important that you level in, and that if anything, the soffit is slightly high at the back so the water cannot run back to the house. And once you've decided on that point, you then begin measuring down for all your pieces, the length of your corner, where your starter will go and where your first piece of siding will go. So let's hop up on the ladder and show you why this is important. All right, we're up on the ladder now, and we're coming up to our starting point. So what we did on this part right here, if you're able to see, back up under here, see if I can get this out of the sunlight here. We use the front edge of the boxing line right here. We leveled in and we found the spot that we wanted to start here. We then measured down the thickness of our soffit, and that's where we're going to start. I then put a nail in the line for where the soffit would be, about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch below the top of the soffit. I then measure down from that nail to the brickwork to see how much we will be working with. We've been around to all the corners of the house. We've determined our height of where our soffit will be, where it will finish, and then come down for the height of the corner. We now go to each corner of the house and we measure down and see which height will make it to the brickwork, so there's no exposed wood of the old part of the house. We determined on this house that 95 inches would be the perfect height for all of the corners on this house. Once we determine that, we take our siding and we want to determine how we want to start that siding. We have to do some math, and we do not want to get to the top of the house and finish, and this last piece of siding, or next to the last piece of siding, ends up very close to where the soffit would be, and you have to cut a little small piece to go in here, and usually it's very wavy. You have difficulty attaching it, and it looks really unprofessional. So sometimes we will adjust the height of our siding so we don't work out with an unusual problem at the top. So basically we take the height of our wall and we divide it by the height of our panel, and we find out if we're going to end up with a 1/2 of a panel, 3/4 of a panel, 7/8 of a panel, whatever the case may be, and we see where we're going to have to cut that last panel and see would that work out good in this situation. As I mentioned before, we like to make our aluminum J-channel. People say this is going to fill up with water and it's going to ruin the wood behind it, but there's no way the water could fill up here and then go over our 3-inch back. This 3-inch back allows us in most houses to be able to adjust this up and down and find something solid to nail to. This also allows, if we run into an unexpected situation, this allows us a little room to adjust our siding up and down into this channel. So we could adjust this up to 3/4 of an inch, and we usually start at about halfway in the middle. So once we determined that we wanted this channel to start about 1/2 an inch up on the corner, we then took and marked where we wanted that piece to go. Then we decided where the siding needs to go. We place it in here, and we decide on the height where we want that panel to sit. We mark each of these, the top of the J starter, and that is our measurement all the way around the house, 91.5. We find out what the top of our siding is going to be. We measure down, and it was 78.25. We know we measure down from the top of the corner for all of these. We know when we get to the top that we're going to have the exact same height piece of siding from one end of the house to the other. So these just gives us some flexibility and a neater, cleaner look. We will also drill holes in the bottom of this so that the water can drain directly out the bottom of this channel. Earlier, we try to find ways to make the job look neater and cleaner. We hate trim nails, the little nails that many people will nail pieces up through the face and puts a pucker each place they go. We hate for siding to finish out in an unusual way so that it just doesn't look neat at the top. So what I want to do is show you how we finish off. We did the math and we figure out, are we going to be able to finish with just a little space at the top, or just a little space above if we had to cut the panel here. We want to have either this ridge near the top about 3 to 5 inches away from the soffit, or this edge 3 to 5 inches away from the soffit. What this does is allow us to make this piece in two different ways. One is flat if we need to put it in this part of the panel here and lock it on, or if we finish out at the top, we will make it with a J, and then it will lock onto this panel here. After we do that, we can then nail in this slot here with our trim nail guide. This receives our soffit, this locks onto the last piece of siding, and there's no face nails anywhere, so you get a nice clean appearance for your freeze board underneath. So as I mentioned, this channel here is not a finished product. This is just a flashing channel around the window. You can't see it here, but we also have flashing underneath here that directs the water back to the outside of the siding. And then our actual window trim to build this window out will go over this, and it will not be seen. It will be installed much like a shutter is installed. And all of this gives us a neater appearance. So let's go around to one of the windows we've done the simple way. Here on the front, we're going to do some more decorative boxes underneath with some beadboard underneath them that's going to look really nice and set off the front of this house. So let's go around to the side and take a look how one of the windows look as we did the simple way. So here we have a window that's not completely finished. It hasn't been caulked and cleaned at this point, but what this is Royals PVC trim boards. We go over to a jig and we make the frame, and it mounts very similar to shutters on top of the siding. We will come back then and add the shutters. Notice that this gives you a nice heavy look to the windows, and it's out from the siding. We also use Royals Pro plug system here. What this does is allow this screw to go in, it makes its own hole, and then it has little caps that go into the hole and come out perfectly flush. It makes your fasteners almost completely invisible with those products. So it's just something to set your company apart as being different from all the other vinyl siding companies out there. The little bit of extra detail, the little bit of extra thinking, the use of other products can go a long way into making your company stand out as different from the rest. And that's what you need to make it. So in the future, we're going to talk about things that can speed up the process. We're going to talk about things, how a scrap piece of aluminum, don't throw it away, save it, how that scrap piece of aluminum could save you thousands of dollars in the future. We're going to talk about one of the enemies in the vinyl field are curved or round objects. You've seen people do that ugly stop sign look where they take a piece of straight aluminum that they bend on the brake, because we can only bend straight or break straight lines in the aluminum products, and then they cut it in little pieces and make that window look like a stop sign or a multi-sided. We're going to show you how to, with aluminum, cover a half-round window with an almost seamless, nailless look when you finish it. most people will not be able to tell that that is aluminum around that window when you finish with it. So I'm excited about all the things we're going to bring you in the future and look forward to seeing you then.